In this lecture, I am discussing the word formation process in Urdu Hindi. So the some part we have already discussed in the previous lecture. So now we are discussing the remaining parts of word formation in Urdu Hindi. So the word formation, how we can derive the nouns from the verbs. So that is the process called nominalization, or we can call it the verbal normalization. So we just derive the noun from the verb by just suffixation process. Means we are adding some suffixes, or we have some modification in terms of affixes, or in terms of vowel internal change, and there can be any types of modification through which we can derive the nouns from the verb. So that is called the nominalization. So that many nouns are derived from verbs root in the Urdu Hindi, and they express the meaning of action sometimes the meaning of results, and sometimes they express the concrete entities related to those verbs. Means when the verb we have like ginna, so it change into ginti, so that is the action. And when we have the verb like muskurana, so it change into muskan, so that is the result. So that is the change from verb into noun. So that is called the nominalization in Urdu Hindi. So this transformation actually happens from the verb into noun. So these nominalized forms allow the speaker to refer the act of itself. So we can derive three types of nouns. One is the action noun, second is the result noun, and the third is the instrumental or concrete noun. So we have the example of action from ginna to ginti, or we have the example of result from muskurana to muskan. So these are derived into three types. So first one is the in terms of process or the action noun. So we have already discussed. So there are two more examples like chalna into chalan, padna into padai. So that is the verb chalna. From the verb chalna, we derive chalan. So that is the verb and that is the noun. And we have verb padna, so we derive padai. So that is padai is the noun. So this noun is the in terms of action, not the result. Means when you change from padna to padai, so padai is the action noun. And when we change from chalna to chalan, so chalan is the action noun, means movement. And the second types of noun that we derived from the process of nominalization, that is from verb to noun. So that is the noun as a result nouns, or we can say the outcome nominals. So the result noun means from the verb likhna we derive likhai. So likhai is the result when you write something. Or from banana to banawat. So that is the result of the verb banana. In the last one, we have the concrete and instrumental noun. So concrete and instrumental noun means the verb chalna change into chal. So the chal is the instrumental noun. And when we have the ghumana, it change into ghumao. So that is the instrumental noun or the concrete noun. So that is the process of nominalization through which we can derive the noun from the verb. So in these type we have three types of noun that we have derived from the verb. First one is the action noun, second is the result noun, and the third is the concrete noun. So in this process of nominalization, we have some suffixation process, or we have some suffixation through which we can derive those noun from the verbs. And these suffixes are na in like chalan, chalna, ni, ti, an, ka, I, and what. So like dikhna become dikhai. So that is the e suffix here. Bharna become bharai. That is the e suffix here. Rokna become rok. So there is a suffix here. So these are the suffixation process, or we can say the it comes under the morphological process. So we have some particular suffix through which we can derive the noun from the verbs. and these derivation create the noun of state, quality or activity. So enriching the lexicon by linking the verb based action to conceptual nouns. So that is why we can say that these nouns are derived from the verb. So they have some types of verb based action, some types of action in the noun. So that is why we call it the verb based actions. So now we have the most other examples. There are other common example, like from khelna verb we can derive khilona. From bichhana you can derive bichhona. From baithna you can derive baithak. From phulna you can derive phulka. From bachna you can derive bachat. From rangna you can derive rangat. So these are the derivation from the verb. So we can derive the lots of noun from the verb by different processes. Now we have the other types of word formation process, which is called borrowing. So in borrowing, we are directly taking the words from other languages. So and they become the parts of our language. So there are some reason of borrowing and there are some other requirement of borrowing. For example, if you are borrowing some elements from any foreign country, or we can say the foreign culture, like you can borrow some foods, so you have to borrow the name for that. Like if you borrow the pizza, so you have also borrow the name for pizza. If you borrow the chai, chow mein, so you borrow the same name from the other culture. If you borrow like hot dog, so you borrow the same word in your language. So that is called the borrowing. But in this uh, word formation, we also discuss some modification in the borrowing. So when you borrow some word, or when we borrow some words from other languages, so we modify those words according to our linguistic system, means our phonology, our morphology. So we can nativize those words according to our phonological system and morphological system. So that means if we borrow some words which we cannot pronounce in that way that the foreign language pronounce, so we can nativize the word according to our pronunciation or our phonology. So that is the borrowing. So we have lots of example of borrowing in Urdu Hindi. So Urdu Hindi borrowing has been an ongoing process. So due to the extensive link or the cultural link between the other or historical contact with Persian, Arabic and Turkish. So we have borrowed many words or many, even though we have borrowed the some suffixation process from the Persian and Arabic, or we can say some grammatical system from the Persian Arabic to make the word how we can derive the word. So there are some pattern of borrowing we have borrowed, even though we have borrowed many words from those languages. And Hindi particularly borrow some words from Sanskrit and Prakrit. So but according to Shakil and Khan, they have said that Urdu modified the borrowed word according to their phonology and morphology. So they become the nativized phonology and morphology, and they just modify those borrowed word according to their grammatical structure in Hindi Urdu. So we have borrowed the word like bombarding. So bombarding becomes bombari in our language. So that is called the phonological modification. So we could not pronounce in that way that the foreign language, like in English we pronounce bombarding, but we just adjust the phonological modification in our languages. So that is called the phonological modification. So we replace some sounds, or we can modify some sound according to their according to our language. Okay, so we have like the officer, so we just modify like afsar, or in Urdu adhikari. And hospital we just modify as aspatal. The captain we modify just kaptan. So that is the phonological modification that occurs during the borrowing process from foreign language to our language. And we have some morphological modification also when we uh, borrowed some word from the foreign languages. So the morphological modification means we can add some plural suffix from our languages, or we can add some past suffix from our languages, and we can add some uh, like dative marker from our languages, and we are adding some types of like postposition from our languages. So we add all these uh, modification from our language like Hindi, Urdu. So we just borrow one word like school, and the school, when we make it the plural, so we cannot say the schools, but we say schoolo. So the schoolo is the morphological modification in Urdu Hindi, and school is the foreign words that we borrowed. And when we have the word like member, so we borrowed member and we change into memberon or membran in Urdu Hindi. And when we have this word film, and the film change into film when we add some suffix in that. So that is the suffix comes under the morphological modification that happen when we borrow some words from the foreign languages. Now we have the other term is called abbreviation and acronyms in borrowing. So abbreviation and acronyms are the system in the word formation process of any language. So in abbreviation, we just take the initial letter of group of the word and make the different letter or the separate words for that. For example, we have the word like uh, DM. So DM is the full form of district manage district manager. So that is the abbreviated form is DM. So that is called the abbreviation. So there are many abbreviation and many acronyms we borrowed from the foreign language or from the English or from many other languages, particularly English in from the English, and those acronyms and abbreviated are used in the same way in our languages. There is no change. So we all know that the abbreviation and the acronyms means the word borrowed from the another language, and they originate as abbreviation or acronyms in our languages. Means the borrowing means when we borrow the abbreviated types of words and the acronyms types of words from the other language, and they become the part of our language. But there are some phonological modification also when you pronounce those words. So we have the example like NATO. So we borrowed that NATO word from the foreign language and we used the same NATO, which is the acronyms in Urdu also. We have the UNESCO. So we use the same acronyms in our language. We have the ISRO. So the ISRO is the same word that we use in our language. We have the WHO, we have the UNO, we have the NGO, we have the ATM. So these are the words we borrowed from English and we pronounce in the same way. And these all are the abbreviation and acronyms, and we have already discussed the difference between the abbreviation and acronyms. So abbreviation means when we pronounce the shorter form or the initialist form in the separate letter. For example, when I say like DM, so that is the example of abbreviation. So that is so WHO is the example of abbreviation. And when I say the ISRO, so ISRO is pronounced as one word. So it is the example of acronyms. So that is the difference between the abbreviation and acronyms. So WHO, when the every letter pronounced separately is abbreviation, and the acronyms means the words pronounced the abbreviated form pronounced as one word without separation, like ISRO is the one word. So that is called acronyms. So these borrowing often lose their expanded meaning in everyday use and are treated as fully fledged word in the recipient languages. So while we are using those borrowed term in our languages, so we do not know what is the expansion of those abbreviation and what is the full form of those abbreviation, but we are using as a term. We are using as a term WHO, we are using ISRO, we are using UNESCO, we are using the UNICEF. We are not worried what is the full form of that, but the abbreviation form just resemble the meaning or just uh, give the meaning. Means we do not need to worry what is the full form of that words. So in that process of linguistic borrowing, not only the complete word but also the abbreviated form or acronyms from one language enter into the another languages. So once borrowed, these forms often undergo the phonological, morphological or orthographic adaptation to fit the structural norm of the borrowing languages. So I already told you, if you borrow some abbreviated form or the uh, acronyms form from the other languages, so you can also modify according to your phonology or morphology or orthography, because many times we do not have the same pronunciation. For example, the NATO pronounced in English NATO, but we in English they can pronounce NATO, and any modification we can have in any language, though they do not have that kinds of vowel and consonant in their language, so they can modify when they borrow these abbreviated form and the acronym form. And the other word formation is called loan creation. It is also related to the borrowing process. So in this loan creation, when we borrow some words from the another language like English, so for in this, for example, we borrowed the term from foreign is black marketing. Black marketing. The black marketing we borrow in English, but we are not using as black marketing, but we translate the same term in our language. So it becomes the kala bazari. Kala bazari. So that is called the loan creation, or we can also call it the kalk. Kalk is the technical term for this loan translation or loan creation. So the loan creation refer to the process of forming new words in a language by combining the native or borrowed morpheme to express the foreign or modern concept. So we borrow the concept or the term from the foreign language and we just translate that foreign word into our language. So instead of direct borrowing from the foreign word, so for example, we borrowed like the word from foreign like net, it used for internet. We borrowed word like pizza, borrowed word like hot dog, borrowed word like computer. But those terms are used as it is that we borrowed from the foreign language. But in loan creation, we are not using the word in that form, but we just translate those words into our language in Urdu Hindi. So the example, the first one example is Kala Bazari, and the second example is telephone. But telephone is also used as telephone in Urdu Hindi also. But the loan translation for this word is Durbhas. So that is the term used in our language. So that is called the loan translation or kalk. That is the example of kalk. Or we can also say loan translation and loan creation. The other term is democracy. So when we borrowed the word democracy from the from English, so we just translate that term in our language like Loktantra in Hindi and Jamhuriyat in Urdu. So Loktantra is derived or is actually the translation of the democracy. But in Jamhuriyat, the Jamhur word means pupil and the Yat is the uh, abstract noun suffix. So that is mean that means rule of the people. So that is the Jamhuriyat. So we are not using the democracy in the Urdu Hindi, but we translate those terms as Jamhuriyat or Loktantra. So the role translation in Urdu is creative linguistic strategy that translate the meaning of a foreign concept rather than adopting its form. So we are not adopting the form directly, but we translate the concept in our language. So this process is called loan translation. Now we have the other types of word formation process is called blending. So generally we define the blending. So we combine the two part of the word into new word as the one word. So we take the two part of the word and create the new words. Not the fully two words, so that is the compounding. But in blending, we take some part of the one word and some part of the other word and create the one new words. So the example of blending is like word smoke plus fog. It becomes like smoke. So we take the smo from the first word and ga from the other word. So it becomes the smoke. We have the word like brunch. So it is the combination of breakfast. So we take the bra from the breakfast and we take the lunch from the lunch. So it becomes the brunch. So that is the blending. Generally, we define the blending in this way. But in Urdu Hindi, many scholars define the blending means the word formation process in which we take the two words from two different languages. So one word from the native language and one word from the foreign languages. So like we have the example of blending is Alami Bank. So in this we take the example of bank from the foreign language or English and we take the alami as the as the word from our own languages. So it becomes the alami bank. So alami bank is the international bank or the world bank. So in this world bank, so we use bank from the foreign language words and alami is the native word from the Urdu or Hindi. So that is called the blending process, word formation process in Urdu Hindi. It is different from the general blending process where we are just taking the part of the two words and make the new words like the brunch from breakfast plus lunch and smoke from smoke plus fog. So the blending differ from the simple compounding. So in simple compounding, we takes the two part of the or we take the two full part of the word. Like we have the compounding like blackboard, black plus board. So it becomes the blackboard. But in blending, we take the example of two different languages. One is from Urdu and other is from English. One is from Hindi and other from other languages. So that is the coinization of the new expression by accommodation of the foreign words and the native words together. That is called blending. So as Kachru and Varsi 2020 defines blending is a particularly productive mechanism in Urdu Hindi and it allows the speaker to coin new expressions that accommodate modern, technical and social concepts without losing intelligibility. So we can accommodate any modern and technical terms in our language by some mixing of the language between native and foreign language. So we have the example of blending from the loan base and Urdu form. So that is the Alami Bank we have already discussed and the Salamati Council. It is for the Security Council. Or for international bank we use the Alami Bank. So the bank from foreign language and Alami from the native language. Salamati Council from the foreign language word and the Salamati is the native language words. We have word like the takat and secular. So that is the secular power. So we use secular takat. Senior journalist, we use senior sahafi. So senior from the foreign language and sahafi from the native language. And the other word formation process is called reduplication process. So the reduplication process means we repeat the same item twice and it creates new meaning or it modifies something in meaning and something in also in grammar. So it is the reduplication is the morphological process in which all of part of the base is repeated and create the new form that modifies and intensify in its meaning. So in Urdu, Hindi or in South Asian languages, it is very common process. So like we use ghar ghar, we use bar bar, we use the word chat chat, we use the word kam kam, we use the word haste haste, khate khate, jagte jagte, sote sote, rote rote, karte karte. So these are the reduplication in Urdu Hindi. So the reduplication can express the intensity, can express the repetition, can express the continuity, can express the plurality sometimes. It can also express the emphasis, affection and distributive sense. So like the English we have the again and again, slowly, slowly, bit by bit. So these are the some partial example from English languages. So we have two types of reduplication in Urdu Hindi. One is the complete reduplication and other is the partial reduplication. So in complete reduplication, we repeat the same item twice. But in partial reduplication, we are not repeating the same item, but we repeat some part of the item twice. So this process is merely the serve as a style, and they give some semantic and grammatical meaning or the function also that we have already told you. Means by repetition you can modify, or by reduplication you can modify in the meaning and the grammatical function also. So now we have the example for complete reduplication. So like बार बार, साथ साथ, धीरे धीरे, कदम कदम, थोड़ा थोड़ा, दौड़ते दौड़ते, रोते रोते. So these are the example of complete duplication. So they indicate the emphasis, repetition and intensity in the words. And now we have some partial reduplication. So some are like chai vai, fal val, kam vam, khana vana, kitab vitab. So here we have some part of the word is repeated, so that is influenced by phonological variation and to add the expressiveness or contrast. So here we have some phonological variation in the repetition. So we are not repeat the full word, but the repeat as the part of the word. So it is also comes under the echo formation in Urdu Hindi, because echo means the last word echoed by the. So this terms, the echo formation is the another word formation process in the Urdu Hindi. We discuss in some other lecture the echo formation process, like chai vai khana wana. So chai can uh, only be repeated as vai. But in some languages we have different types of echo formation. In Punjabi like chai shai. So and in Urdu we have chai vai, and we have khana wana, khana una, this kind of echo formation in different languages. So here I conclude this word formation. So in Urdu Hindi we have different types of word formation. We have word formation in terms of inflection, we have one word formation in terms of derivation. So inflection means we change in some grammatical category from number, gender, case, tense, aspect, mood. But in derivation we derive the new words and we change the sometimes we change the word class or the parts of speech. So we derive from noun to verb, we derive from verb to noun, from adjective to noun, or from noun to abstract noun. So that is the derivation. We derive the new words and new meaning in a language. And we have some types of compounding is also is one of the word formation. And we have also discussed the diminutives. So in diminutives, we uh, just small, just change the meaning in smallness. Means in small meaning, like the dibba become divya and bacha become bachu. So these are the example of diminutives. We have borrowing, so we have different types of borrowing, and there are some modification in borrowing. We have also borrowed the acronyms from the other languages, And the last thing is the blending and reduplication. So blending means the mixing of two languages. We just derive the new words by the mixing of two languages. And reduplication, we repeat the same words and it gives the different meaning. And then it also enhance in meaning and or influence the it also influence the meaning and grammatical function. So Urdu Hindi in the word formation demonstrate how language contact, historical legacy, cultural factors shape the morphology, making both language flexible, expressive, and adaptable to modern context. So, one last thing I want to mention here, word formation process means how we can modify, how we can derive different words by different process. So in Urdu Hindi, we have different types of other word formation, like we have borrowing, and we have some borrowing like the grammatical factor from other languages or the grammatical system from other languages. So it actually enhance our language uh, in a more better way. So it our language can be fit in modern context also. So it is very necessary to borrow the word from other language for any language. If you are not borrowing the words from other languages, so if you are not more flexible, you are not become expressive and you cannot be fit in the modern context. So that is I conclude here. Thank you.